Okay, welcome to another edition of Carnivore Bites. I'm your host, Jeff Sherman, along with Dr. Eric Lopkin. Dr. Lopkin, I have to say, and you're the doctor, but I would have to say the thing that caught my ear the most this week, in the last 10 days or what have you, is really the Democratic candidates. I've been around the block. I'm actually shocked, and that, in today's world, takes a lot to shock people. I'm shocked in how crazy. I literally 20 years ago, if you told me that the list of candidates, their platforms would be so radical, I would say you're crazy. You're just nuts. You're a partisan whack job. This is not possible. Your thoughts?
It is a very strange time. You have what I believe is the largest number of candidates in a primary, certainly in my lifetime, possibly longer. And they seem to be fighting among themselves over who can go the furthest to the left.
Okay, but let me have your comment on this, because I heard this last night, in fact, that what's going on, and I want your comment, your opinion, is what's going on is Sanders is the front runner. He's setting the agenda, and no one wants to go against that flow. So they're seeing how far out-lefting the leftist. Any sense to that?
I think that's certainly possible. I think that's going to be thrown into even more chaos as Biden officially makes his announcement, because I don't think Biden is going to out-left Bernie Sanders. At this point, I don't know that anybody can really out-left Bernie Sanders.
Well, Bernie Sanders, the burn, feel the burn, it's all harmless, Bernie, all that. He's a very dangerous man. If you ever got the reins of power, I couldn't even imagine that. I really can't.
No, there's virtually no chance of him actually winning, because Democratic strategists have been talking about this problem with Bernie Sanders, is that there are two audiences. There's the feel the burn. These are the diehard Bernie Sanders supporters that if anybody else gets the Democratic nominations, these folks will either go for an independent, a Green Party, but they will not come out for the Democrats.
Agreed.
And then there's another audience, the Never Bernie group, who, if Bernie Sanders does get it, this group will refuse to vote Democrat. Either way, while neither of the groups is very large on their own, losing those votes are enough to tip the scale so that the Democrats cannot win.
Oh, well, I would agree with that. And also, in the Democratic primary, it might pay or might play, I should say. But in the general election, you're talking about giving voting rights to felons in prison. That Netanyahu's a racist, and by the way, Bernie's Jewish. I don't know. Basically, and that's one thing that really bothers me. He's an opportunistic person. He has no allegiance to anything. In the height of the Cold War, not the height, but certainly during the Cold War in the mid '80s, he takes his honeymoon in the Soviet Union. Obviously, not a bastion of let's just say beaches and surfing. And then he's a Jewish American who is vehemently anti-Israeli. The thing is, he's a very dangerous guy.
He really is. But again, I don't think there's any in fact, members of the DNC have already stated publicly that they are already looking to mobilize the superdelegates to ensure Bernie Sanders does not get the nomination.
Okay, and I get that, but if there was someone sane, I'd feel better. I'd sleep better at night. There isn't. There's the Gary, Indiana, I believe, mayor, who's never had a real position. He just talks in platitudes. Kamala Harris, she's downright as scary or almost as scary. I mean, it's not your father's Democratic Party.
No, it's not. And I mean, what's really strange about it is They're all basically trying to copy Trump's playbook from 2016. They're focusing on what they see as their base, and they are doing everything to make that base loyal to them. The problem is, what they don't realize is that the base they're trying to reach and the base they're trying to solidify does not have the electoral votes to win an election.
No, the electoral, they might actually still come close in the popular vote.
They can,
in terms of,
there's the possibility of winning the popular the same way Hillary does, but it's the electoral that counts.
I agree, and the electoral map does not work well for the Democrats. One thing about Biden, I think I've known him since I was in Philadelphia in the 80s when he ran, I think in 88. He is one of the things like going to a concert you always wanted to go to, and then ends up the band sucks. That's Biden. Any thoughts?
That's actually a really good description of it. He is the candidate that the Democrats hope is going to take the primary.
Hope. I haven't
because he is the most centrist of this wacko left contingent. However,
yeah, but also he's not. But when you start doing about that America needs to stop being white,
yeah,
it looks pathetic.
He's a 3-time failure already, though. And people are not going to forget that.
No, I think he's highly overrated. I really think that, and I think your analysis is 100% correct, that he's I'll use the term great white hope, so to speak, or great sane hope.
I mean, personally, I really hope that Howard Schultz gets into the election as an independent, as he keeps talking about, because that's actually going to force the Democratic Party to move more to the center to deal with it.
Possible. I do not think it's possible, and that I'm hardly ever black and white. At this point, I really do not see that it is possible. I think the party has gotten so crazy. That Omar woman just commented about the Mogadishu raid and how the Americans were to blame, and no one even said it. Boo. Like I said, 30, 20 years ago, I never would have imagined it. It's crazy.
No, I
don't know
think
if it's possible.
the only thing that is going to snap the Democrats out of this and start them moving back to, reality, quite frankly, is a massive loss in 2020. And I'm not just talking the White House. They need to lose in the House. They need to lose more seats in the Senate, because that's the only thing that's going to really penetrate them, that this is not what America needs. This is not what America is going to vote for.
Well, maybe could it be that, like an alcoholic, your life's going down the drain and you start drinking even more? I really am not. This is not just a partisan thing. I don't know if they're capable of sanity anymore. I don't think there's anyone running the nut house. The inmates have the asylum. Sorry, I really do believe
the inmates right now are controlling the asylum. Nancy Pelosi is desperately trying to regain control of this.
She's hoping against hope. Yeah, she looks sane.
And I know I've said this before, but it boggles my mind that Nancy Pelosi has become the voice of reason in the Democratic Party.
It boggles my mind, but she looks like she's actually stable compared to AOC and all these others. Now, the Mueller report came out, and it seems to have done some damage, because Trump's numbers, I think, it's not horribly. I'm looking at some charts. He's about where Obama was same period of time during his presidency, and many others, including actually Reagan, believe it or not. But I would have to say that the report and the constant discussion of it has hurt Donald Trump. Something's, I think that's the downtick in the polls. Do you think that's true?
I don't know that
hold on. Do you think it's true? And the follow-up to that is, how does the whole impeachment thing play out?
Yeah, I don't know how much it's really hurt him. I think if you look at his poll numbers in terms of history, he's basically running where most other presidents do at this point in their
Yes,
presidency.
including popular presidents.
Yes. I heard a poll this morning where 60% of Americans are just tired of the whole Mueller thing.
You really saw 60.
60, yes. They want it to go away. And including a large number of Democrats are just tired of this. And even, I mean, I was amazed to hear it from Bernie Sanders. But Bernie was saying, if we keep going on about impeachment, we're going to lose the election because it's going to take away from us talking about issues.
And I have to say that he's right. But again, the inmates have the asylum, Dr. Lopkin, and and it's so radicalized that if you're not talking about impeachment, you're talking about hitting a train out of Washington because you're done. That's really what we're talking. We're talking about Stalinistic.
Honestly, I think it's more basic than that. I mean, the person who's been banging the drum loudest for impeachment has been Elizabeth Warren. And I think it comes down to the fact that she and the other Democratic presidential hopefuls know that without an impeachment, they don't stand a chance.
I would agree with that. And also, I think Warren is really desperate. I mean, that she's got about as much traction as a drag racing slick in the middle of winter. Yes. I mean, she got nothing going on.
No, they really don't. They're counting on impeachment to mobilize their base. But what they don't seem to realize is the more they harp on it, the stronger Trump gets with his base. And if you solidify Trump with his base, there's no way you're going to beat him in the Electoral College.
I would agree with that. And the last point is one of the only things I've thought that could really hurt Trump was a bad economy, and I think that's looking less and less likely. Your final thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, the markets yesterday hit new records with the S&P and NASDAQ. The earnings season has been going very well. There are tons of economic indicators that show, even though we are no longer going at full blast like we were,
which was unsustainable and probably not good anyway.
Right. We still have a very strong economy, and there's no indication that it's going to turn. It's still going to slow down a little more because, quite frankly, it has to. It can't sustain what it was doing. But it's not going to turn until after the presidential election, at least.
I would agree, and I think that was the only thing that really could help Bernie and actually make him legitimate. If we had an economic meltdown, you never know what can happen. But, well, with that note, Dr. Lopkin, that concludes another edition of Carnivore Bites. Thanks a lot, as always.
See you next week.
You've been listening to Carnivore Bites, part of the Exvadio Podcast Network. You can catch us every week at exvadio.com/podcasts, on the iHeartRadio app, the Apple Podcasts app, the iTunes Store, Spotify, and wherever you find podcasts. You can also catch us live every Friday at 4 on WESU FM 88.1.